flags. Okay, number one, the group flags will be used to guide you to short areas because it's like to the dogs because it's quite a walk. So it's like we're walking the dark. We don't want you to get lost. That's number one. And number two is for our mass games later. So keep your flags safe. Okay. I know one group stole 5 flags. Does anyone know the group that stole 5 flags?
Our group,
Your group? That's group one. Group one stole 5 flags.
I think.
Is it your counselors? Oh my gosh, who are your counselors? Okay.
Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome to the Firechat Chat, Disrupting Industries and Changing the World. So please welcome, put your hands together, welcome the guest that will be joining us today.
Today we have the honor of having with us Dr. Kelly Tan, Dr. Ian Chu, and Mr. Russ Liu to address us in this panel discussion.
During the question and answer segment later, if you do have a question, please raise your hand and our moderator, Zeus, will select you. Please stand up and state your name, school, and track before directing the questions to the distinguished guests. There will be a mic that will be going around, so please look out for that. Okay, without further ado, I think we would pass the time to our distinguished guest and Zeus.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Today we have here 3 very special guests and I'll be running through their very amazing bios so that you guys understand what they're working on and then you can ask questions that align with what they're working on and what they care about. So right beside me is Dr. Ian Chu. Dr. Chu is the sole founder of GreenieWeb, an award-winning Singapore climate tech startup that creates low-carbon computer code. He is a pioneer in the decarbonization of the digital world, and he is the first in Asia to carry out such work. For his contributions to the field of climate change, Dr. Chu received the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia Honor for Social Impact, recognition as a thought leader by American luxury magazine Robb Report, and the Global Digital Sustainability Leadership Award at Wiki Finance Expo. Please give a round of applause to welcome Dr. Chu to the panel. Sitting to the right of Dr. Chu, we have Dr. Kelly Tan. Dr. Tan is a female leader in sustainability, renewables, manufacturing, machinery, and business. She's currently building a startup that is engaged in the war on plastics. Dr. Tan also has received a PhD in business administration from the Franklin University of Switzerland. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tan to the panel. And on the far right, we have Mr. Russ Liu. Mr. Russ is the founder and CEO of Social Collider, an aggregator of resources for social enterprises and impact organizations in Singapore. Mr. Liu was also appointed as visiting professor under the Innovation for Impact Partnership, an initiative under the United Nations Development Programme in 2020. In 2018, Mr. Liu also published a book titled It Made a Difference to This One, a book about an NGO that has helped more than 20,000 children impacted by AIDS in China. Mr. Liu is also a venture partner at impact initiatives at Quest Ventures, a leading venture fund for technology companies that have scalability and replicability in large internet communities. Please join me in warmly welcoming Mr. Liu to our panel. So how this fireside chat will work is in the first 20-30 minutes I'll be moderating the discussion, and then afterwards we'll open up the floor to the rest of you. So to start off, I'd like to invite my fellow panelists to add on to the introduction that I just gave and share a bit more about what you do and more specifically about why you do it and what you care about.
Okay, since I have the mic, I'll just kick off. So thank you everyone for being here. My name is Ian and I run a company called GreenieWeb. What we do is we decarbonize computer code. So we change normal computer code, Java, C++,
into low carbon computer code. So we changed Java to green Java, C++ to green C++. But that's just one of the hats that I wear, right? So under the digital sustainability side, I'm also currently a domain expert, so a subject matter expert with the Asian Development Bank. So if any of you would like more information on multilateral organizations, can feel free to reach out to me thereafter. I wear two other hats, one in the maritime space, where I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of an international company in the space of ship inspections. So we ensure that ships are seaworthy before they can go offshore. And the last hat that I wear is I'm actually a graduate of medical school, right? So I was actually practicing in knee surgery before I went over to climate tech. So if any of you are interested in the intersection between climate technology, maritime law, or medicine, feel free to ask me questions. Thank you.
Dr. Tan?
Yeah, thank you, Ian. So I'm Dr. Kelly Tan. So let me just give an introduction about myself. I run a sustainability packaging company called iGreen. I started the company myself 3.5 years ago. There were no investors, no co-founders, because nobody believed in the idea of sustainable packaging. So everybody who I approached told me plastics is still so widely used. Why will people use sustainable packaging? But today, the traction is different. Everyone talks about sustainable packaging. So I want to share with you that I started my company as a startup. I had no funding. I bootstrapped all the way with my savings from my first few jobs. And yet today, iGreen is acquiring other companies, and we could be considering listing very soon. So I think that it's really possible to make changes. I always believe in ethical companies can be profitable. I do not have to sell plastics to make money. What do you want to spend your life doing? And at the same time, could you earn from that? We don't want to think about making money first. We want to think about how we can help people, what problems we can solve, and that's when money will come along. So think about what you want to do, and sustainability is a growing trend, and that helps to grow the company, of course. So I would like to share more later. Thank you.
And Mr. Liu?
Thank you. Well, amazing. Right. So you can hear from Dr. Ian and Dr. Kelly that the purpose is about saving the earth through the green way. So I'm the other spectrum where I look more into the social space, right, more of the human factors. Okay, and for me, right, very quickly, what powers me, right? So I think like from what Dr. Kelly mentioned, the purpose. It took me 40 years before I found mine, so take your time. Okay, I think all of you are so young here, reminds me of my time when I was your age. So I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, so anyway, so coming back, in the course of my 48 years, all right, I was a teacher for 10 years, and then after that I went to Laos, where I was teaching there for 2 years. Any of our Laotian friends here? Anyone from Laos? No? Okay. And then after that, I went to Beijing. I went to Tsinghua in Beijing to do my master's. Right, so I spent about 3 years in China. And then I joined corporate world before I started Social Collider. So in the course of my journey, I realized two things. Number one, all right, money is not the root of all evil. Money is just a tool, just like a hammer is a tool. Okay? You can use it for good, you can use it for bad. Right? However, lack of money will force you or force someone to do things that they would otherwise not have done in a normal circumstance. Right? So lack of money. Therefore, to me, lack of money is the root of all evil. Right? And again, if you're interested to find out why, I'd love to share more offline, mindful of time. So the second realization is, give a fish, feed a day, teach the fish, feed for life. However, I've realized that feeding for life is not enough. Right? A lot of people, they can't get out of poverty, especially in our parts of the world, right? In Southeast Asia, even in Singapore, right? And I think we should set up a marketplace for people to sell the fish. Right? So give the fish, feed a day, teach the fish, feed for life, teach the fish, feed for life, and then sell the fish. Hopefully they can get out of poverty. And at the roots of what we do at Social Collider, this is what we aspire to do. Right? So with that in mind, love to find out more from our fellow panelists and from you as well. Right?
Thank you. So one thing in common amongst all the panelists, even though they work in very different fields and they care about very different problems, is that they're all founders in their own right. And I think being a founder is a huge undertaking, a huge challenge. So I want to invite you all to share about the biggest challenges that you face being a founder, like maybe stereotypes that you might have faced, judgment from your family members, and how you overcame that in order to reach the success that you have today.
Okay, so I guess on my side, the first hard truth that everyone in the room needs to face, and as fast as possible, is that not everyone is meant to be a founder. Okay, there are folks who might be more geared to being a founder. It's fantastic. Take the road, shine. But there are folks who might thrive in a more stable environment in the corporate world, right, or in the public civil service. Being a founder requires tremendous amount of sacrifice. And I cannot understate this particular amount of sacrifice that all founders, be it yourselves in the future, be it Dr. Tan, Dr. Neo, all of us have done lots of things that we would otherwise not have had we stuck to a more comfortable path in the corporate world. So that includes spending less time with family, spending less time on our hobbies, and really putting in so much more effort at times for so much less return, right? Because at the very beginning, when you go from 0 to 1, one of the things that you'll realize eventually is that the startup world is a very harsh world. Right? You may think you have the best idea, the best possible solution, and yet when you launch your product, you see less than 10 people actually buy anything. Right? And even the people who use it, they might want a refund, they ask you to do it for free. Right? So getting product market fit, that's something that I guess you guys will talk about tomorrow in your pitches. That's very key, because if you don't have that fit, people like Dr. Neo, he won't fund your idea. The VCs won't do anything. Yeah, they'll tell you to come back to them, and so that's very important. In fact, now one of the trends that you guys can hop on is the trend of VC-less startups, right? So VC-less in the sense that you either don't use a VC or you rely very little on VCs, so you're profitable from day one. So that's very important for modern startups, because we have seen, and we are actually seeing a wave of startup founders right now who are exiting $100 million companies, but earning just under $10 million, maybe 5, even less. Because there are lots of legal terminologies, things like liquidation preferences, exit returns, things like that, that are tabulated into your particular table if you take VC money, and that basically dramatically reduces how much you actually have when you sell your company, right? So you may be selling $1 billion company, but you may very well only have $1 million. That's actually a possibility. But I won't go on rambling. I believe my fellow panelists have more to share, so I'll pass the mic to Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Dr. Ian. So yeah, I think one thing that Dr. Ian mentioned is time. So how much time do we founders contribute to working in the company? Right now, even after 3.5 years, I'm working from Monday to Sunday. I'm working every day. I'm working till 1, 2 a.m. every day without fail. Whether the company is doing well, it's not doing well. Right now it's doing pretty well, but I'm still working like that. So if you want to run your own company, are you prepared for the hours to sacrifice to help community, to help Earth, to help yourself and your family? So these are the things that you have to consider. What does it take to be a founder? It takes a lot of grit. Grit is whether can you overcome challenges that you face. Every single day in running a business, you always have problems. Are you prepared to be a problem solver every single day of your life? If you cannot do that, you shouldn't think about being a founder of the company. Persistence. After you manage to solve the problem, are you persistent in still trying to achieve your goals? When I started the company, my parents told me, women, you shouldn't run business. I mean, how many successful women business people you see around? Very, very few, to be honest. Most of them on the board, 90% all men. Let's be honest. I mean, there's a growing number, of course, up to 50%. Okay, so I was very discouraged by family and friends who told me that women, no, you just marry someone rich, you don't have to run a business. That is what you commonly hear. But against all the advice, I didn't take it, because if I took it, I wouldn't be sitting here today in front of all of you and still fighting for my business. Right now, even when I consider a listing for my company, a lot of successful businessmen, they tell me, don't do it. Even till today, when I'm starting, I face resistance, so don't listen to people. Don't listen to people who are not where you want to be. If they are where you want to be, you take their advice. Otherwise, you listen to yourself. Till today, I'm resisting all the advice of everyone. So just now, Mr. Ras talked about, I think money is having no money is the root of evil. But I believe that, we can turn it into a root of good. For me, no money and no capital for my friends and families, nor any VC, nor angel investors till today, it forces me to struggle against having no money. When I started the company, having no capital, just like all of you today, there is an issue. Where do we get the funding to fund the idea? Okay, that is one thing we have to overcome, which we will share later on, how we manage to resolve it, because now we are talking about the challenges, right? Right, yes? Challenges only, yeah. So, later on as the company scale up, any company under 3 years old will not be able to get a bank loan because you don't have the track record. So, companies without funding, how do you do that? Okay, then you will face the challenge of growing, keeping an inventory, or funding the manpower, but we don't have the capital. So having no money forces me. Failure became my co-founder. I am the only founder. Everyone asked me, where's your co-founder? I said, no one believed in my idea, you see. So, still, I managed to, without any capital from outside, manage to run the company profitably, more profitably than any tech companies that those VCs I approached invested in it and still do good. So there are many challenges in being a founder, which all of you have to think of. And I think now let's go on to Russ too.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. I think that's really amazing, and I love that phrase. Failure is my co-founder. I love that. Okay. And this is the 7th year of Social Collider, and I don't have a co-founder yet. Not because I'm not looking for one. I am actively looking for one. I had a couple my thoughts were suitable, but they were not suitable. So coming back, right? I also want to add on to what Dr. Kelly mentioned. Like I mentioned earlier, I think money, desperation, or rather lack of money is the root of all evil. If you're pushed to the extreme, is the right? Meaning people will start to do things that they would otherwise not have done. Sell things, sell their body parts, sell a kidney here, right? Sell themselves, sell their children. Of course, that's the extreme. And I totally agree, having the parts, I think desperation will really force one. In the startup space, actually desperation is a good thing. So maybe, and I experienced that, probably what Dr. Kelly mentioned earlier, right? So I was a teacher, I came from a very comfortable background. I was a teacher, drawing a good salary, and was on my way to being a principal and so on, right? And then after that, I joined corporate and I was flying all over the world, right? And then I decided, okay, enough is enough, right? And then that was the turning point. So same thing, you will be embarking on whichever routes that you choose to take, right? However, I think there'll be a turning point, there'll be a watershed moment, the tipping moment when you feel that, hey, maybe it's time to do something that you feel so much about, right? Which was also what Dr. Ian and Dr. Kelly mentioned, right? The purpose that they found. But it doesn't come easy. I think for most people, you will find your way here, and then if you draw apart a chart, right? If you want to draw apart a chart or a graph from when I was your age to now, right? Then you see that the points that meet all will probably guide you towards what you may do eventually. So coming back, one of the key challenges, right, and also like what Dr. Kelly mentioned, like Jack Ma, he said that if you want to succeed or if you want to work in a tech world or do your own startup, you should do a 996, right? If you don't know what that means, it means work 9 to 9, 6 hours a day. However, having run my own startup at after 7 years, I think it's 24/7, 365. Right? Dr. Kelly will agree with me, isn't it? Right? Yeah, and it's true, right? You work until the wee hours. Let me tell you, I used to have black hair, okay, black mustache and black beard. But yeah, after the 7 years, people see me and they're like, "Wow, what happened to you? You look like aged." But I enjoy it. I enjoy the moments, and especially when you see the impact that you have created, right, and you've done. Okay, so again, one of the key challenges that you will face, okay, not even may, you will face, is finding the suitable partner or suitable team, because that will be really tough, okay, finding one, right? A co-founder is somebody, what's the difference between a co-founder and a very good and capable team? Okay, so in a nutshell, right, a capable team is tantamount to what eggs are to a chicken. So the business is like to them, eggs to a chicken. And co-founder is like what ham is to a pig. Okay, what does it mean, right? Chicken and eggs. A chicken lay eggs, and then the egg. Okay, you can eat the eggs. It's fine, right? Meaning they work very hard to lay the eggs, but that's about it. There's not much of a pain in them. But if you were to eat the ham of a pig, I mean, sorry to say to our Muslim friends, but if let's say you were to eat or the ham of a cow or something, right, another animal, it's like chopping off the leg. Okay, so an animal to co-founders, or rather the business to a co-founder, is really something that it's very, right to our hearts, right? So I think this is one of the key main differences, and if you can find a good co-founder, I congratulate you. However, I can tell you it's really tough. So in my other hat that I wear at Quest Ventures, we are one of Singapore's or even one of Asia's leading venture capital fund. Some of our investees include Carousel, Caro, Shopback, right? So we're always very proud to say that in Singapore there are 28 unicorns, of which 4 were invested by Quest. And I can tell you, a lot of these co-founders, a lot of these startups, or a lot of these businesses, or these unicorns, they are still a one-man show, right? Meaning they have a very strong and capable team, but it's very tough to find a co-founder for that team, right? So with that in mind, let's
Thank you. Yeah, that was really fascinating. And I think this fireside chat, we themed it disrupting industries, changing the world. And in many aspects, you all are disrupting your own industries and coming up with fascinating innovations and business models. And so my question to each of you would be, what is the innovation? If you could explain in a bit more detail of your product, of your business, and also more detail about how it took you to get to that idea. I think a lot of us, like aspiring, startup entrepreneurs or founders, we face the problem of finding the right problem and then also finding the right solution. And a lot of startups actually fail because they either don't find a suitable problem or they don't have a solution that works or scales. And I'm just curious, what was your thought process? How long it took you to try and fail until you reached the one idea that you're now working on?
Gotcha. So disclaimer here, the story I'm going to share with you is not something you should do. Right? It's pretty unique. So I stumbled onto my idea. So it wasn't something that I found a problem. I didn't had this eureka moment. What actually happened was that back in 2009, when I started learning how to code, my teacher was going on and on, like me, going on and on, right? Boring some of you to sleep right now. Was going on, and I was essentially there questioning what my teacher is saying. So in the first class, my teacher told me that going digital meant going green. That was the common mantra then. Unfortunately, it still is now. And what happened was I raised my hand and I asked my teacher, isn't there a possible case, hypothetically, that going digital didn't mean going green? And he threw down the gauntlet to me. He was like, why don't you prove it to me? Right? He didn't encourage me to question. He didn't encourage me to think of possible alternatives, right? And so I took up that challenge for myself, and I was like, okay, since you gave me the challenge, I would try my best to see if there was a possibility that going digital wasn't going green. And lo and behold, I did, right? So what came onto me as a challenge eventually developed into a pet project, a passion project that I brought through my high school years and then into university, and something that I felt was meaningful enough to eventually let go of what I trained for in medical school, right? To pursue. So that was my journey. I wouldn't suggest that for other people because that involves a very high risk threshold, right? Meaning that this could have gone nowhere. And if you train very hard for something and you suddenly switch to something else, it basically means you have very good risk appetite, right? Because if things don't go well, the backup plan is a bit far away. So back to my story, right? What I'm trying to bring about here is that some of you might have a eureka moment, most of you won't, but that's fine, right? A lot of successful founders actually innovate through business model innovation, right? So they see an existing problem, they see someone else solving it, and they just change something a little, right? And that's great, right? So it's well, there's no magic answer for this, but I hope like this story that I told you, right, shows you that the potential of founding a company can lie even in the most unexpected areas, right, including in school, when your teacher decides to diss you and ignore your perspective. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ian. So I think by asking us this question, in a way, I'm glad all of you are here, because those who are listening, you probably can get quite a bit of tips, because we are coming from people who are not professors, not professors just teaching. We are the ones on the ground, running the business, starting the business, and we will tell you how to do it. Okay, so speaking of your question about where did the idea come from, so when I graduated from NUS, I'm from NUS, I graduated from economics. What I did was I went to work for a plastics packaging company. So having the experience there, working for at least 4 to 5 years, that was when I decided to pull out and go to study my master's during COVID period, and I continued and finished up my doctorate degree in business administration. One of the very interesting thing about taking a degree from a European universities are that they are very much more advanced than Singapore universities. So one of their modules, is called business ethics. So there we had a lot of case studies that we had to do. We had to read about successful business people, how they run and started ethical business, and we had to come up with our own. So having experience working, which I would recommend you to start work first, have some savings, and the first, honestly, in your 20s, most important is to have a mentor. When you have a mentor and you learn from the mentor, that is when at the age of 30, you will be able to have an idea and firm up what you want to do, especially running your own business. So I made use of my experience in plastics packaging, and I thought to myself, I had to write my submission for the essay, right? So I wrote about how can plastic packaging be ethical? It's plastics, right? It's harming the world, it's killing the ocean animals. And that is when I was thinking, what if there is a future without plastics? What if I started my own company selling sustainable packaging with zero plastics? So that's when I decided, after my MBA, I opened my own company. I was at the age of 29, and I was running the business while trying to finish up my 120 pages of doctorate degree and the modules as well, which was very tough. I was studying and working full-time, studying part-time. Yeah, and because of the hours difference, I was up at like 2 a.m. in my lecture halls, and So when I started the business, how did the ethics part come in, you see? So I decided to trial some of the products. I started my own designs of packaging, having background and learned from my mentor. So I started my own designs, and I started to get factories to produce some designs, and I trial it into the market. So this packaging do not contain plastic, 100% compostable packaging. You have heard some of them made from sugarcane, no paper, because paper is lying in plastics. So we are even trying to replace paper with plastics. You see why food packaging waterproof, right? It can't be waterproof and the gravy is not seeping through. and the paper is not turning soggy unless there's plastics. So I launched my own compostable packaging. There are many different materials that we launch, and we throw into the market. Many designs didn't work, and that was when we donated the designs to charity, not to waste it. We're not going to throw it away, you see. So we keep trialing and error until we sold. We started selling to listed companies, and that was when the traction started coming, revenue started coming. We started to hire people, and that's when we scale up. So that was how I started the company in sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. I think very inspiring case studies from Dr. Ian and Dr. Kelly. So, Social Collider, COVID time was a very difficult time because we are community builders. So we have within us about 50 social enterprises and charities and non-profits whom we try to support. Right? We used to run a co-working space as well, but purely for social enterprises. And then, of course, COVID was tough, so we pivoted. Right now, one of our key offerings is to run impact projects or impact trips, we call, right? Trips, meaning overseas, out of Singapore, into developing countries to perform a service, right? So service learning in short. Okay. As a teacher, I believe very much in this pedagogy. Right? Service learning means you must get out of your physical environment and you must stay in a place that it's not like a hotel. Every day you go back to the hotel. No, okay, you have to sleep in a classroom. Okay, and then you have to perform a service such as cementing the floor or painting the floor. I went on one 22 years ago. I went to Henan, right, Zhengzhou, Henan, and it was such a life-changing experience for me. So, anyways, in 2022, okay, I was approached by the National Youth Council to say, hey, would I want to lead a trip to Laos? Because indirectly, I am the Laos expert because I spent 2 years there, and then I have the context of right down from the Prime Minister's office all the way to some other places. Right. So anyway, I led a trip in 2022, and along the way, we began to broadcast a little bit, and then we add, because there are a lot of other service providers already. So innovation is more like tweaking what is out there. Right? I think like what Dr. Ian mentioned, you plug in, okay? Just like we have all the smartphone now. Is the smartphone innovation? If you look at it, not really. Like, all the functions are not innovative, right? It's just a phone, then you plug in camera, you plug in torchlight, alarm clock, everything. But in itself, if you separate everything else, is that an innovation? Not an innovation. All the parts have already been discovered, right? It's already out there. It's just combining everything. So likewise, we talk about innovation in the startup ecosystem now. There isn't really a very strong one, right? Depending on the definition of innovation, right? So coming back to what I was doing, we observe what's out there in the markets and we make sure we do things better than them. Right? So in a way, also like what Dr. Kelly mentioned, she saw that, hey, what was existing? What's lacking in the gap? Right? So likewise, if you're going to do something, okay, let's say a business, always observe what is out there already and make things better. Okay, that will shorten your, I would say, route to success or the route of launching the product. Okay, so that's one. Number two, your network is your net worth. Who you know will very highly determine where you go. Right. So again, I think like what Dr. Kelly mentioned, it will be good if you work first. Find a mentor, work, right? You can jump straight into what you do now. However, the probability, I think, I don't have the statistics with me, but it has been found that those who have at least 5 to 10 years of working experience first, generally the startups, the company they founded, are more likely to survive than those who are freshies, meaning they graduate direct from university, right? And also this phrase, you're the average of 6 person you hang out with. You're the average, and I believe so much in this. Okay, you want to be smarter, you hang out with people whom you think are smarter than you. You want to be better looking, you hang out with people who are better looking, who are fitter than you, right? You want to run your own startup, then you make sure you hang around with people who have similar mindsets, right? And of course, even more, okay? Hang out with potentially, if you can, the VCs, but why would we want to hang out with you? That's where what you can offer and bring to the table matters tremendously, all right? So we'd love to share this offline as well if you're interested.
Thank you. Yeah, so I asked this question so that everyone in the audience can get a better sensing of what you guys are working on, because on this note, I like to turn the mic towards the audience and open the floor to questions from the fellows. I see some of them have been taking notes, so now if you have questions, please raise your hand, and maybe Chen Xian, do you mind helping pass the mic around to the fellows? Yeah. We have a fellow at the far left.
My question is to Dr. Young. So the question is, as AI writes more and more code and ships code at scale, how do we ensure that it doesn't accelerate more of digital emissions? And the second question is, since AI writes code and that's functional to the most part, but not to the exact point, and we keep on prompting it. So what is the cost of that inefficiency? So that's the question.
Thank you. So there are two questions there. I'll take it one at a time. So AI is responsible for a huge increase in carbon emissions worldwide. If you look at Microsoft, Google, right, they've reported somewhere between 30 to 49% increase in CO2. Can you imagine? They are a tech company. They don't have a manufacturing plant. They don't build cars. They don't build airplanes, and yet their carbon emission can increase in a singular year by more than a third. Right, so it's a huge amount, and that's where the concept of green AI comes in. Yeah. So green AI is essentially a variant of AI, right, that is trained in a more efficient manner. You can have a look at the various techniques that are used, but more importantly, green AI solves three things upstream. Okay, the first thing that they solve upstream is time, because if you manage to simplify something, you get your product to market faster, you're already at an advantage. The second thing that it solves is data. So green AI, one of the examples would be mini models. So when you think of mini models, they are more specialized models. For example, a mini model for finance just does forex trading, right? And while it may not be as comprehensive as ChatGPT, it is much more fine-tuned to its purpose, right? So it basically means that you need less data, and you save on data costs. The last thing really is energy, right? And one of the biggest bottlenecks we see right now actually isn't access to capital in the AI world, right? AI world is flooded with capital, right? If you call yourself an AI company, or you put the word AI behind whatever you name your startup is, chances are you will be funded by someone around the world who has too much money at hand, yeah? And the thing is, what becomes the bottleneck would therefore be energy, right? In some parts of the world, unfortunately, because of rising tensions worldwide, chips. When I'm talking about chips, I'm not talking about Lay's or potato chips, I'm talking about NVIDIA chips, right? Those are the bottlenecks. But in places like Singapore, energy has become a bottleneck. Did you know, fun fact here, that Singapore has only banned two things in the history of the country, right? Two things, not one, two. The first thing was chewing gum, that's why no one's chewing gum here. The second thing was the building of new data centers in Singapore. You could never build a data center in Singapore after about 2019, right? So what happened was between 2019 to somewhere around late 2023, data centers and the building of new ones actually banned in Singapore. So this shows you the degree, the extent to which energy has become a chokehold, not just in Singapore, but worldwide, right? And that's why when the Russia-Ukraine situation happened, energy was such a hot topic in Europe. Because if energy couldn't reach the data centers, then they would have an outage of cat memes and TikTok in Europe. It's terrible. But what's more terrible is when you have an outage of essential services. So answering your second question on coding, right? So I know some of you here use, I don't know, ChatGPT to code. Some people use Lovable, some people use something else, right? And that's good and fine. The problem with, well, AI coding is that, as you mentioned, it's very functional. So if I would go a bit more technical here, what happens is that it actually inbuilds unnecessary redundancies in your system. because it cannot fail, right? If it fails, then you'll unsubscribe ChatGPT and then they'll lose $20 or $200, depending on how much you pay. And what this basically means is that there is a very defensive mindset in the way it's coded, right? Which is something that we cannot have when we want to look at building lean products and green products. So to answer your question directly, when you think of ChatGPT as coding, it's very much like copying and pasting from Stack Overflow, right? More or less, right? Minus some of the random bugs and malicious code they have on Stack Overflow. But it is terrible as a coding tool, right? Even if you use some of the more specific ones like Copilot or Cursor, you realize at the end of the day that you need to do a lot of recoding after they code, because some of the code just isn't dependable. And more importantly, if you're looking to make your startup big, some of the code isn't scalable. So what that means is that it can work if you have one person visiting your website, but if you have 100 people or 100,000 people visiting at the same time, the code is not elastic enough to ensure that the service doesn't crash when you have more people using it. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
I think we have more mics ready, right?
Oh, I need to change that.
Oh, okay. Do we have any new questions from the floor? Any fellows want to raise their hands and pose a question? Fellows? Okay, we have a fellow over there.
Hello, hi. So I'm Abhinav, I'm from India, IIT Roper. I have a question for Dr. New. What do you look for in a social enterprise before funding them? Or like if a social enterprise is looking for funds, how do they reach out?
Oh my gosh. I can tell you, I will, okay, two things, right? You want the truth or the true truth? Okay, no. So, okay, no, okay, of course, I'll leave it to you, right? Now, please have a seat here. So thank you for your question. Now, in the social enterprise space, or for any startups that focus on good, I can tell you, at least in our parts of the world, it's going to be doubly, triply, 10 times harder than a tech startup to raise funds, right? Now, why? Because in a normal tech startup, right, one of the key, the only thing is just quickly scale, raise, right, scale, and then get as much outreach, as much money as you can. Okay, you don't have to really worry about the second bottom line. In a social impact startup or in an impact startup, at least minimally two bottom line. What are they, right? Number one, of course, your financial sustainability of the company, meaning can you survive? Okay, so that's key. The second one is your impact. Where is your impact coming from? Now, the impact can be built into the sustainability or into the business. For example, if a business starts hiring persons with disabilities, okay, example, okay, or the underserved community like ex-offenders, okay, ex-inmates, or children from low-income family. That sounds like a sweatshop, but anyways, okay. So, yeah, so then you can manage that. Then they'll be good, right? As you scale. However, from a startup, from a VC point of view, we still want to look at your first bottom line, your finances, right? And I can just share with you one small example. Okay, one of my mentees. Okay, I'm not sure if they heard of Forward Coffee, right? They have 5 branches in Singapore. Okay, and Wei Jie, right? I knew him from some time back. He was from NUS as well. So when he started Forward Coffee, he hired the deaf and persons with autism. The ratio was about 70%. 70% of his staff were from the community. And then at one point, I was like, okay, maybe I could find someone to invest, a small investment. So I said, are you interested to take it up? His answer was no. Okay, he was not confident that he could pull it off. I asked him why. So compare this cafe where he has to manage a person with autism. Now, a person with autism, I'm not sure whether any of us have interacted. In order to train a person with autism, let's say even to make a latte, for us probably very easy. Press, this will come out, right? And then you can do your. Now, for a person with autism to make the latte, he said it took him like about 2 weeks to train. Okay, and then you cannot confuse. After that, he can just do latte. You cannot do cappuccino. Cappuccino will have to be somebody else, right? So he becomes the latte expert. Okay, because if you try to train the person cappuccino, then they will get confused already, right? The ratio of the water and so on, right? So compared to, let's say, Starbucks, example, or Coffee Bean, okay, or now where we have so many Luckin or whatever. So easy. Okay, I found this place. It's amazing. Okay, let's just deploy a person, hire somebody else, train them very quickly, right? Within what, I think probably 2 weeks, they can set it up. Okay, so if you compare this and then you zoom out and then use this example to compare between an impact startup and a normal kind of startup. Now the impact startup will have to balance between the impact, right? In which case, the coffee case, it was the hiring of the differently abled versus somebody who can just quickly scale and make a lot of money, and put it very bluntly. So again, if an impact startup can prove this financial sustainability part, then very likely, okay, they can get that. So you can talk all you want about the impact, but I can tell you if the business is not financially sustainable or they cannot see the financial sustainable, like in future, sustainability in the future, then unlikely they'll get funding. Okay. Having said that, in Singapore, right, thankfully or not, there are some grants to help to kickstart this, right? Thankfully, because then it will help. But I adhere to what Dr. Kelly mentioned earlier. You have no money, you try it yourself. I think that's the way to go. In the countries that I've been, right? I stayed 3 years in China. I spent about 1 year in the US and Texas. The startup scene there, there's no support, zero. There's nothing from anyone. It's yourself. You really have to bootstrap. You really have to work from yourself. And I find that that's the best kind of environment. Why? Now, again, not to discount our Singapore ecosystem, but I think there are too many grants out there, flooded, to support our young entrepreneurs. And I've seen a lot of grant-entrepreneurs. I start this, okay, I take some grant, okay, bye, I finish the grant. What are you doing now? Oh, another one. Oh, why? Oh, because there's another grant. Okay, do this. Okay, there's another grant, and then I've seen. Okay, I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you not, right? And I've seen so many grant entrepreneurs out there. They just take the grant and then they just do something new, and then the next year they do something new again. So, anyway, back to your points. Okay, if you think you have got an interesting idea, now that's the next thing I want to share very quickly. Okay, if you have an idea only, please don't talk to anyone. It's always about your proof of value already, right? So very quickly in a summary, right, the startup ecosystem, ideation, oh, I've got this idea, okay. And then proof of concept, can you make this idea work? If you can, the next stage, proof of value. Do people want to buy your idea, buy this? And then of course, the last part is the scaling part. Now, look for someone to invest only when you have a proof of your POV already. You have proven that this idea works. If you just have an idea and then you go and talk to people already, you're wasting your chances. All right, you're wasting the opportunity. Okay, because I can tell you very upfront. Okay, nowadays no VCs will fund ideas anymore. Right? Maybe 20 years ago when this whole industry just came up, probably yes, but nowadays no. Okay, it always has to be, well, I'm really doing this, and maybe it's not so profitable yet, but I have some demand already. Now I need some money to scale it. Okay, then that's the parts to go. All right. So, and this is for everyone, regardless of what industry you're going in, right? Impact or not. Always make sure you already are able to actualize your product or service. Okay, and you're already selling, because people will ask you, what's your traction? Right? What's your traction? So this is one keyword that you should take away. TRACION. Traction. All right. So I hope that. Where are you from?
India.
India, right?
Yeah, maybe I just add to what Ras has said. So I think that it's okay to talk to investors, even if you have, best of course if you really want to raise funds, of course you have to have the product selling already. But for me, personally, I send my pitch deck to 100 investors at the idea stage. the growth stage, and the funny thing is that, in fact, actually by meeting these investors, whether angels or successful businessmen, or VCs, they actually give you more ideas. They actually tell you, they told me the solution to all my problems. And that is when I got their ideas, I put it into action without them being my shareholders, and my shares are not diluted, hence I still own 100%. So don't always continue to share your idea. Keep sharing, keep learning, never stop learning.
Thank you for the question and the sharings. I think that was really interesting. Mr. Lee, you shared about entrepreneurs. I noticed some of those as well. And then you talked about learning from investor feedback, and Dr. Chu shared a lot about his technical expertise. And I'm always curious to learn how you develop the technical expertise. So I guess my next question would be, in the current climate in the world and in, let's say, the entrepreneurship ecosystem, what kind of advice would you give to young aspiring change makers on their, in their journeys as they want to work on their next company or their next venture? And this is open to all of you.
Okay, so I'll take the first stab at this. I guess the main advice is to start now. Yeah, start now. Act fast, and if need be, fail fast. Yes. What you don't want is 3 kinds of scenarios. The first scenario is called the zombie startup. So your startup is neither here nor there. It isn't technically dead, you're still getting some money, but it's not growing at any pace, right? It's probably be the same in 10 years' time. So that's something you want to kill off as fast as possible. Second thing that you want to avoid is to delay. So you think you have a great idea, you want to make it perfect, like a nice piece of art before you eventually start marketing, right? Don't do that. Why? It's because someone else somewhere might have the same idea, and if he or she goes to market first, then that's a minus for you. But more importantly, it's because at this age, you guys all look incredibly young, you have the opportunity to fail more, right? I don't hope you fail, and I wish you every success, but if you do fail, there's actually a very little opportunity cost, meaning that the whatever you lose, right, as a student failing in a business isn't huge, right? At most you feel sad for a while, and then you pick yourself up and you continue. So that's 2. The last one really is that if you try this out and you realize you're not a good fit, right? Then you don't spend the rest of your life trying to figure out if you're a good fit for this. You then go for more internships, you find a corporate role, and there is nothing wrong with that. You might be in a startup boot camp, kind of like a fellowship, but even if at the end of the day your biggest takeaway is that startups isn't for you, that's a great thing, because you found your personal life fit early. And that's something that I see some people struggling with even at my age and even beyond, right? Because they're not very sure if they should be doing a startup or not. And at times they come in too late when the opportunity cost is too high, and they realize they can't make those sacrifices, right? So if you can, act now. If you have a great idea tomorrow, pitch, and then even try it out. Yeah, at worst you fail, at best you become the next Mark Zuckerberg.
Thank you. Yeah, so to all the students out here, okay, so I just want to say that you must learn that resilience is like a muscle, Just like any muscle, it can only grow in discomfort. Entrepreneurship is not a straight road, it's like a jungle, but you have to hack your way through, often bleeding, but you must always continue to move. As Franklin Roosevelt has said, smooth seas never made skilled sailors. Okay, so I think the mission ahead, entrepreneurship in Asia is changing from profit only to purpose driven. When we are the generation that can redefine business. So if you're sitting here with just an idea, a notebook, or a burning frustration, I think that's enough. You start ugly, you start now. So entrepreneurship needs you, the next founder who have real solutions to solve, climate problems and sustainability more effectively. To the next generation of Asian entrepreneurs, I just want to advise, build not startups, but build solutions. Chase not profit, but impact. Do not wait for validation. Create your own matrix of success. You don't need to be big to begin, but you need to begin to be big. So thank you. I hope that you built something that the world actually needs. So remember my takeaway, the 3 Ps: profit, planet, and purpose. So good luck on building your next company. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Dr. Kelly. I think so inspiring, right? The 3 Ps. So coming back, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to share one thing, okay? And it's don't ever chase trends. Don't, because by the time you chase the trends is over. Unless you are already in the trend itself, i.e., like what Dr. Ian mentioned. Right now, you see a lot of AR. Everything is AR nowadays. AI everything nowadays, right? I used to work in HR. I see nowadays there's HR in AI in HR, AI in education, AI in everything. But if you are not in the coding industry or not doing computer science in your university eventually, then it's going to be really tough. You'll be chasing, because by the time you're there, I think the next wave already. I would like to share 2 examples very quickly. In 2018, I was given 10 mentees from NUS Business School, right, to mentor. Okay, and out of the 10, I asked them what they were doing, what they intended to do. So out of 10, 6 said they wanted to do e-commerce related, right? So I said, oh, e-commerce. So I just asked 3 questions. The first, right, did they know how to do coding or build their own website? Oh, don't know. Okay. Number 2, did they have $600 million to burn? Oh, don't have. Then I said, most likely they will have a higher likelihood to strike the lottery if they were to buy a lottery ticket. Right? I mean, not to discount that they can't do it. Okay, I'm not trying to discourage you, but entrepreneurship, and I quote Dr. Kelly again, it's like different people will sit. There will be different people who take away different things. Okay, so it's not like a straight path. You know, you follow. It's not like mathematics. 1 + 2 = 3. No. 1 + 2, yeah, equals 3. No, okay. It's really a path that you got to bash through, right? You have to find your own way, okay. And so anyway, when I asked the 6 of them why they want to do e-commerce related, they said, oh, at the time there was Lazada, Shopee in Singapore, right? For our friends not familiar, these are the e-commerce giants in Singapore and Southeast Asia. So I said, oh, okay, and then they felt that they could achieve similar success. I said, do you know how much backing they have, right? You've got to do your homework a little bit more. Again, not to discount that they can't do it, okay? It's just that it's going to be such an uphill task, right? And so that's one thing, okay? And then the second example was in 2021, I think. I was talking to 4 startup wannabes, right? Startup founders, and I asked them what they want to do. So they said they want to do NFT related, non-fungible token. Right? Not sure if you're familiar with that. I'm not very familiar in Web3 or this particular space, but anyway, I asked them again 3 questions. The first was, where were they going to mint the NFT? They said, mint, what's that? Oh, there I know already. All right. The second, per mint might cost about at that time $500 to $800 US dollars. And then they were like, need money one? I said, yeah, of course need money, right? And the third, where were they going to launch it? Was it OpenSea? Was it somewhere else? So they said, don't know. Then I asked them, why did they want to do it? Because they said, well, there were some celebrities that launched the NFT and then they managed to sell it for like $7 million. I was like, hey dude, there's a community, you need a community to bump it up, at least according to what I know. So for example, if Dr. Kelly sold an NFT, right, and then Dr. Ian bought it for like $1,000, and then Zayus bought it for like $2,000, and then by the time it comes to me, maybe the last gentleman that bought it at $1 million, then I'll buy it at $2 million. Then I look at it, there's no one else to buy, and then I'm stuck with it for $2 million, and that's it, right? So I think the application of NFT is good. It's just that the monetization part hasn't come in, right? So again, then I asked them why they wanted to do it, right? And then they said, oh, because of the celebrity. And then that was from January to April. And then in May, the whole NFT industry crashed in 2021, on 2021. right? And then in June, one of them called me, said, hey, thankfully we followed your advice. I said, no lah, I don't know, for all I know, they could have started it and done very well. It's never, right, there's always a two-way thing, right? So coming back, gentlemen and ladies, okay, don't chase trends, rather look within your network. What kind of strengths do you have? What kind of resources do you have if you want to do your own startup? I think that will help in terms of your survivability. I won't call it success, okay? The survivability of your startup. But of course, if you are driven with passion and a purpose, then I think that will help tremendously also. Right? And finally, if we were to look at the three of us, Dr. Ian, Dr. Kelly, and myself, I think we do have quite a bit of resources or knowledge in the industry that we are working in already. It's not like, oh, I want to do AI, I go in, but I know next to nothing. Or I can never cook. I can't cook rice for goodness sake, I need to save myself. Right? If there's a zombie apocalypse, I'll just eat the rice raw. If for some reason it's never cooked properly. But so I know I can't go into F&B industry, okay? Right? But because I have education background, so I know my resources are there. So with that in mind, right, wishing everyone success, and yeah, feel free to reach out.
Okay, doesn't seem like we have any more questions. Oh, now we have a lot of questions. Okay. We don't have time for all questions, so I'll take one from the back, one from the front here, and keep your hands raised. And I'll take the girl in the back row in this front section here with the purple wristband. Yeah, that's you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Angeline.
Do you want to turn on the mic?
Hi, my name is Angeline. I'm from Ngee Poly and I'm from the STEM track. So my question mainly goes out to Dr. Kelly, but Dr. Chiu and Mr. Niu can also respond. So my question is how did you get people to invest in your product? Because you said that you didn't have capital investors and there was a lot of resistance. So how do you manage or get that breakthrough into getting this big?
Thank you for your question. So I fully bootstrapped my company from the beginning, from startup to SME right now. I put in my own savings from the earnings from my jobs before I started the company, and I paid for the warehouse rental, the prototypes that didn't sell, and I tried so hard and I did everything. I carried cartons on my own. Beginning there was only one person, that was me. No one wanted to come into the non-air conditioned warehouse to do it. Today, I don't have to do it myself because I hire a team for myself. The beginning is very difficult, and you keep trying and you keep launching new products at a cost-efficient rate. You see, you don't pay for something that is unaffordable. You don't try to go beyond your means of funding, right? Because nobody wants to fund us, right? So I keep launching until the first product brought me the revenue. And of course, when you run a startup, you don't just want to run something that is non-profitable. So you have to be able to know some aspects of business as well. The price of the product minus of the cost, including all the rental and divided by how much you're selling. And you have to make sure that every product you're selling is profitable. I would suggest not selling one piece by one piece. I do it in container, in wholesale, and that's when the profit shows up, from 100 to thousands, and then much more, 10,000 and more. So thank you. So I want to say, you are right just now, Mr. Ras was saying that we do have the resources and network built over our years, at least minimum 10 to 20 years of working. So if you guys are looking into the aspect of tech or AI, please link up with Dr. Ian, because he will be able to give you advice or link you up with people who you are looking for. For me, if you are looking into a startup doing sustainability, add me on LinkedIn, Irene Kelly Tan. You can reach out to me. Whoever you need help from, you can just ask me. I probably know them. For Mr. Ras, he knows a lot of people in the investing side, and even in the social impact. So do look for us. You make use of us since now you already know us. And please ask questions, because to be an entrepreneur, I want to see that kind of bravery, that kind of courage able to take rejections. Out of 1,000 rejection, you only get 1 acceptance. Are you able to accept it? Are you brave enough to stand up to ask those questions? Yeah, that is what we want to see, showing your characteristics of being a true entrepreneur. Thank you.
On that note, I just wanted to ask the panelists if you're okay with us sharing your LinkedIn profiles with the fellows so that they can connect with you. Okay, that's great. And then just have a question in the front here. Yeah. Just start from here. Yeah. He raised his hand first.
Hello, my name is Preet. I'm from Bangalore, India. I had a question that do you think that high schoolers should be starting startups and companies? Because for context, a lot of money is flowing into startups, especially the ones that are started by very young folks, even teenagers. I currently work at a venture capital firm that invests in deep tech and hard tech startups, and we also invest in a lot of young founders. Do you think that people will have better chances of success if they just go deep dive into a couple of things? And for me, it's personally AI, robotics, climate, and energy. So go deep dive into those things, and by deep dive, I just don't mean explore, but actually go deep dive. If someone asks you anything, you can answer it very promptly. You go talk to people, you build something in those areas what you're interested in, and then you start a company. So ideally in the next 4 or 5 years when I'll be like 22 or 23, do you think there would be better chances of success when people go through these deep dives, find what they actually care about, get the understanding of the world, and then start a company? Because I was recently talking to a friend who sold a company for $220 million to Coinbase, and he told me that he would have had better chances, he would have enjoyed the process more if he would have done these deep dives and would have also had more economic impact.
Okay, so I think to answer your question, the deep dive is necessary. The mechanics may differ. What do I mean, right? So if you are a tech entrepreneur, you mentioned tech and robotics, right? Then the Thiel Fellowship, THIEL, Thiel Fellowship, just like the Young Asians Fellowship, is a very good example, right? You drop off university, they give you $100,000 US, you start a business, right? And it's potentially possible if you are in the tech space, you started learning coding when you were 6, so you self-learned it over the years on YouTube, right? That's fine. But there are some things, and when I talk about mechanics, it's better to go to university, right? Things like medicine, law, right? Hard skills, right? And that's really because you cannot really teach yourself how to open a wound, right? And sew it back together. You need proper process and proper procedure. And that's why when you look at medtech founders, for example, right? They're generally all doctors, or at least they were potentially part of the medical ecosystem as a pharmacist, something like that. There is proper training, right? And that links to what you were talking about in terms of robotics, because there are many types of robotics. Robotics has evolved through leaps and bounds, right? Right now, if you talk about the latest versions of robotics, humanoids, right? Those with very fine fingers movements, right? That you see in Unitree, you see in Boston Dynamics, right? Those folks usually have spent anywhere from 15 to 20 years doing hardcore research on the topic, right? So even if you go deep dive on yourself, you just do not have enough resources to go to that level of expertise. And that's where the university route would be more preferred, right? If you're doing something more general, you're doing like a e-commerce or something like OVO, right, in India, right? You're trying to kind of like change the business model in which hotels present themselves. Then you don't need university. You can go and talk to a lot of people, you can start a business straight away.
Thank you. And we have one final question from the girl in the purple wristband. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, okay, so I'm Singyi from SMU. I have one question. How did you guys validate that your ideas were worth pursuing? I'd love to hear from all three of you guys.
Okay, so starting with Dr. Chu.
I think that's a very interesting question, right? Because for me, it actually took a while. It took more than 10 years for me to validate that it was actually something worth pursuing. And that's why I call my story a bit unique, because back in 2009, when you talk about sustainability, people are still picking litter on the beach. They still do, in fact. And there wasn't quite the understanding of digital sustainability. The validation point came really when folks start asking you to do things for them. And I think that might hold true regardless of whether it's my story or Dr. Kelly's or Russ's story, right? When you have an when you have more demand than supply, you know you're doing something right. So for me, it was when I had a ton of people coming to me and asking them to make green websites or green mobile apps for them, that I knew that I was on the right track. That was the validation itself. Right? And if you think of it from a macroeconomic point of view, right, that's a huge plus, right? Because it means that you are able to provide something that people are willing to pay for, and that's great validation. So I'm just going to stop at that because of time.
Thank you for your question. So I think validating is very simple. Validating only needs a product that the market wants and also a price that is lower than your competitors. People will buy it. But the difficult part is that are you guys able to run the business? You see, even if you have validated the idea, you can sell, people want it, but are you making a profit from it? So I want to share a quick one about when I started. I put in all my savings into it. That was the first year. Second year, I broke even when the company was 1.5 years old. Today it's 3.5 years in operations. So 1.5, it broke even. And that months after that, I wasn't happy because my salary was $200 a month. I told my mom, I'm going to look for a full-time job. She told me, Kelly, you have reached this stage and you want to give up right now. Do you know if you give up, you erase that 1.5 years of starting your company? I said, Mom, everyone is earning $5,000 a month as a graduate. I earn only $200 a month 2 years ago. I said, Mom, I can't. How am I going to support myself? But it's persistence that helped me in, how I managed to lower the cost, and being able to run the business is just as important as validating the ideas. It's not about selling, it's about are you able to manage both that will lead to the success of your company. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. So true, $200. Some months I pay myself. I have to tell my mom, okay, this month I'm eating at home. No. Okay, so coming back. Validation is always about what is out there. That's why when you start something, right, it should not be entirely new, like, oh, I think I've got this brilliant idea, I want to start it. No, you always see what is out there in the market and then you think that part is the gap, right? So I would say validation, and also to leverage on what Dr. Kelly mentioned, it's not so much the validation, but the selling. So running the business, but the selling. I have so many mentees. So I'm a mentor in residence at SUSS and NUS as well, right, for the impact space. And I've got so many mentees. They have got a brilliant product or service, but they always ask me, how to sell? How to sell? I said, just knock on doors and get slammed in the face, right? And it's a numbers game, okay? 2%, right? For every 100 doors you knock, probably 2 will open, right? So can you knock 100 doors now? Do you have the resilience to knock 100 doors, right? Okay, and then you knock, and then of course, again, like what Dr. Kelly mentioned, are you able to accept the rejection that 98 doors will slam in your face, right? Sometimes we are very thin-skinned. Maybe by the 5th door, like, don't already lie, let's go back in. Right? But if you persevere, you will find the 2 doors that open, and then because of that, then 2 more doors, and then you grow, right? And this is not the right example that I'm going to use, but okay, I think that's also how the scammers are able to get away with so much money, right? Because they just AI, they just like, oh, reach out to as many as possible. They don't care, right? They just reach out, and then because I think they automate the whole system. So then along the way, out of 1 million, you just need 2%. It's 20,000 people will get conned, right? And then 20,000, everyone get conned. Okay, so that aside, I just want to share with you the statistics, right? So back to you again. Validation is really a numbers game, right? That's why there are some startups that it's not a new thing, right? It's existing out there already, the solution, but they tweak it and make it better, right? And then of course the marketing story is the next part, but probably we'll save it for another day. Alright, so with that in mind,
thank you to Dr. Chu, Dr. Tan, and Mr. Liu for their insights and for your very exciting stories. We've now come to the end of our panel session. Please join me in warmly applauding the insights. And now I'll hand over the time to the MCs. Wait.
Yes. We would like to thank all the speakers for coming down today and sharing such insightful information. We hope that you learned something from this. And now we would like to invite CSCO to present our token of appreciation to each of the speakers today. Once again, thank you for your sharing, and we really enjoyed what was shared today. Now if we could huddle together for a quick group photo in the middle of the stage.
Three, two, one, smile.
Maybe one of the audience, or we sit in front, some of that. Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Let me all squeeze in. Come over.